There has been a lot of conversation in the media regarding this North Carolina Senate race. So as you all know, I did announce that I'm going to run for North Carolina Senate 38. But this is a question that I have for you, the community. Because I need to make sure that we're all educated voters and that we understand what this process looks like. And we understand the impact of gerrymandering that has happened in our state. And not to point fingers to just to one party, because yes, the Republican Party is who created these ridiculous maps. But the Democratic Party has also done the exact same thing throughout the years. Whatever party is in control, that's who controls the maps. That's how the process works. Normally what happens and what has happened under the Democrats is they create maps that obviously in comparison have been a lot more competitive in order to give the community, us, the voters, the opportunity to choose the candidate that we think is the better candidate. Well, we saw in 2010, after President Obama was elected in 2008, a clear shift that happened. And our legislature, North Carolina General Assembly, for the first time in around 100 years, was in control of both the House and the North Carolina State Senate. So that created a supermajority. And then they started creating maps to try to ensure that there will be Republican control across the state, and how that is impacting Charlotte, Mecklenburg, we are now seeing. So earlier in January, right after the Christmas holidays, I had a group reach out. It wasn't the first time that people had reached out to ask me to consider running for North Carolina Senate 38. Our current representative, who is also registered as a Democrat, everyone knows I'm a Democrat, progressive Democrat, and I think there's a difference. That's a different conversation regarding what is a progressive Democrat versus a Democrat that claims to support the democracy, but you voted in support of HB2 under the guise of protecting women and children, but yet you'd have not worked to increase funding for us to expand our courts, expand our judges. You claim that you care about the working poor and you care about crime, but you limit the authority of local municipality and how we engage. You signed off with your Republican colleagues, although you're a Democrat, to support legislation that overrode what Charlotte did in 2015 regarding 287G. And what your city council did was say, CMPD officers, focus on the crime, focus on protecting people. Don't spend time and energy questioning someone's status, especially when they call and they're the victim, because we know a diverse community is a stronger community. Well, your General Assembly, less than a month and a half later, created legislation that overrode that and said, yes, you do need to ask someone their status, but also you created an environment for both the sheriffs and for the police to basically become ICE enforcement agencies. And that's not the job that we should be having. We should be working towards creating a community that is welcoming and progressive. So let's also look at what the General Assembly does. The General Assembly also are in charge of education. So we look at the fact that in 2017, your Board of County Commissioners passed a bond thanks to the support of the community. Almost $1 billion. Well, it's your General Assembly that's supposed to be funding education. And anyone that's lived in Charlotte, I would say more than 10 years, because we are a growing community. Whoever you ask, we're growing anywhere from 44 to 100 people a day moving into our area. Into the region, really, but Charlotte is growing quickly. But there was a time before the so-called education lottery where funding was going directly to teachers. Well, over the years since that creation of the lottery, it was under mainly Republican control. But for me, then the reason why I was even considered Senate 38, our current representative, that you didn't see a need to push back on the direction that the Republican-led House and Senate was going in. So as a senator, you have a bully pulpit, to say the least. And you can use that for good or for evil. Those of you that have been with me as a council member for these 7 years know that I use my bully pulpit to argue and fight for diverse price point housing, because we need affordable housing throughout our community. You know, I'm not a fan of the word of affordable housing because it's such a subjective word. So when I talk about diverse price point housing, that also goes back to your General Assembly. The General Assembly said we cannot mandate inclusionary housing. We do not have the ability. We have voluntary inclusionary housing, meaning developers, we will offer you incentives for you to create housing at differing price points to give a chance for not only teachers and firemen and police officers, which we talk about a lot, but for that everyday working class individual that is a server at a restaurant or a salesperson, because we become such a pro-market society and we become such a pro-market state that we almost privatize everything. So you have workers who are contract workers, not necessarily having access for full-time jobs and benefits and things that come along with that, but your General Assembly opened up the door. So it would be nice to know that we had representatives up there that fought for the working poor, the working class. As you see people walking and driving behind me, this is the community that has not had the voice as loud as it should have in our General Assembly, which is, again, the reason why I initially said that I was going to run. Now, why are we here today? And hopefully you all are joining in, and some people will follow this later. I'm here to ask you, the community, a question. So in these 7 years that I've been on council, because we're 2-year terms, I initially told the residents of District 3 back in 2011, give me 4 terms, that's 8 years as your district representative, because I believe that it would take at least 8 years in order to see any real progress throughout the district. Those of you who do not know, District 3 is really geographically diverse. So let's think of South Boulevard. From before the pink building on South Boulevard all the way to Main Street, Pineville. Everything going towards 485. So that's South End, all of the West Side, Tuckasegee, Freedom, all the way out Nature's Ford. That's all the way to Carowinds, Steel Creek area, the Topgolf, the Charlotte Premium Outlet, the airport out by Whitewater, go back to Wesley Heights. All of that falls into District 3. So I thought because of the years of lack of development that had happened, that it would take me at least 8 years to try to get real movement. I can honestly say that God has truly blessed our district, and we have had more growth consistently. We have had 7 years of growth, and District 3 is one of the fastest growing areas in the city. Well, with that growth comes growing pains. So we are seeing displacement of housing. We're seeing, as far as people who earn less than $30,000 a year having quality housing choices. We've also seen a lot of development with new job creation and infrastructure investment. So when I look at the district, which I have been in my home on the west side of Charlotte between Freedom and Wilkinson. I've been in my home since 2001, so I never lived in the more affluent areas of the district. I stay right off outside of uptown Charlotte, which is quickly and fastly growing. When I said I was going to run for North Carolina Senate District 38, I lived in the district. Well, thanks to gerrymandering, and a good part of it is Democrats who were also on the redistricting committee. It wasn't just all Republicans. I have now been drawn out of my district. So what does that mean? Now, thanks to 3 Democratic districts, District 38, 37, and 40 have all been shifted because of this Republican district that was created for Jeff Tart that created this contiguous line that's really ridiculous. So this is going to be challenged in court, as it should, because it was clearly based off of race. And had we had an outside independent redistricting committee or algorithm, it could have turned out very differently. But the question I have for you all is, what would you like for me to do? So, yes, I've been drawn out of the district. So we have a couple of things. Do you want me to run for District 37? That was never my goal. We have a strong Democrat that has been in that seat for a number of years now. We have not had a strong Democrat in District 38. There is a young man who also filed for 38, and I think competition is a good thing, and it's healthy, and I think the community deserves to have choices. So I support that idea. But because of the way the General Assembly is set up, they say that within the next 2 weeks or so, because filing actually started this Monday, today's Thursday, you have until the 28th to file, that I would need to move and identify a address that's within the new 38 district that was created. Now let's think about that for a minute, because we have a number of people throughout this city who don't actually live in the district that they represent. You have people in the General Assembly, because also caveat, the General Assembly reduced their funding as far as their pay in order to do this job of service, even though you're traveling. You are in Raleigh 3 days to a week at a time, so you have to have some place to lay your head. And the cost of your vehicle maintenance driving back and forth up to Raleigh, they reduced their funding down to $13,000 and some change. So that opens a door where only the reality of your representation are people who are independently wealthy, who are retired, or who personal businesses benefit off of them being in the General Assembly. Now, put that in the back of your mind as far as the financials of being of service. So they draw me out of the district. I can move. Who do you think is just sitting around with enough money to identify a separate location? Now, we've seen this happen over and over again. You have elected officials now who have not lived in the district that they represent, but they might rent a room or have an apartment or something that's actually in the district, but they don't actually reside there and live there. If you have followed me in these 7 years, you know that I have a fundamental problem and challenge with transparency. Meaning, the reason why I would run, and I truly believe that you all will support me for 38, is because you know that I fight for the community. I fight for the working class. I fight for the working poor. I am here as your representative, and you know this. So what I'm asking you is, we got a couple of options. Yes, I can still run for Senate District 38. I can identify another home in the district, or I can stay and fight and be your champion on diverse price point housing, on true job creation, on economic development, fighting with around our budget on how we invest locally. Because keep in mind, we may break the supermajority at 18, but it's really not going to be until 2020, 2022 that we actually can shift who is representing you in the General Assembly and get true, strong, progressive Democrats in those seats. Or I can stay and continue to fight as your chair of Housing and Neighborhood Development and as a member of the Economic Development as well as Budget Committee, and working on issues of equity and equality. And in 2019, run for City Council at large. So there's still time for filing. But I wanted the community to be a part of this conversation and understand that I take your words, I take your opinions seriously, because I am a public servant. It doesn't benefit me personally, this work that I do, except for knowing that I'm helping people. I cannot help everyone, but I am proud of the people I have been able to connect the resources and the fighting that I have done as your elected official. The question is for you all to share your true opinion of, do you want me to continue fighting here on Charlotte City Council and then in 2019 running at large? That way we have more opportunities for the community at large to come out and vote. Or would you like to see me go to the General Assembly, but knowing that that's going to be a 6 to 10 year battle, because again, it's not going to be until 2020, 2022 that we're able to really shift it. And who's to say I don't run in 2020 once these lines are challenged in court? Do you want me to be that elected that doesn't live in the area representing you like so many have, or move just to say that I'm in this seat? Or do you want me to continue being the advocate that I have been in this current role? I'm putting it to you, Charlotte, to the residents who are current District 3 residents and to those who would potentially be my constituency in Senate District 38. You let me know.